This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. There was a lot of bass that were caught over the weekend. Also a lot to talk about. So I have reached out to Kyle Welcher, who's practicing for the upcoming NPFL event. So the guy weighs in 118 pounds, 12 ounces, wins by 45 pounds, 7 ounces, and then heads right to the NPFL this week. Also, John Pearl with a 3-day one bass weight record in the Clear Lake Open out in California. 15 fish totaling 102 pounds, 102.81 for that record. And then there was also a Bass Nation event on Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma, which is why I have a co-host for today's show. If you remember him last year, I fished the Bass Nation Regional on Lake Champlain and roomed with Josh Giroldi out of Canada. What province are you in?
Ontario, buddy.
Go a little closer.
A little closer?
Yeah, like a little closer. Then you see I got that fancy. There we go.
Yeah, we got it.
All right, Ontario.
All
right, up around about an hour from the Toronto area.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to talk about that. And what it's like fishing a really stingy fishery in a part of the country that you have never been to before under some of the toughest conditions. So first of all, thanks for jumping on BTL. What are your thoughts so far after being in the United States for a couple weeks? First of all, just explain like what you do and how you ended up in Eufaula, Oklahoma from Canada for the Bass Nation Regional. Then we'll dive into all of the record smashing events that went on this week. Then we'll take a break. Then we'll come back and then we'll kind of dive into this regional scene and your thoughts on it as a fairly new both fan and tournament angler. And I say that less than 10 years?
Yeah, way less than 10 years.
Yeah, way less than 10 years. We talked about this a little bit of time, but I thought that would be a cool perspective to have you on to talk about it. But talk about how you ended up in Shawnee, Oklahoma from Canada with your boat in the driveway.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the hospitality first off, man. I guess it started last year, made a few mistakes on, we have a little regional up there called the Hank Gibson. Made a few mistakes on Smallmouth Lake. Should have been in the top 7, so I should have been like straight to the championship. But the Bass Nation, like they have these 4 regionals, and it's really cool because you can just, I think they call them you're not a part of any of the clubs down here, but you can just jump straight into them, which is really cool. Top 20, and you punch your ticket straight to the championship. Championship's on so La Crosse, Wisconsin.
You've seen guys, that have done that back-to-back. Will Davis. We have Blake Caps, who comes on the show and kind of gives a recap every couple. He actually just got his first Elite Series check this past week at the Pasquotank River and only finished 180 pounds behind Kyle Welcher for the win. But what possessed you to come to Oklahoma and fish this regional? There's a regional that's later in the year that is out of Lake Erie, where the guys can run to St. Clair if they want to. They can fish Lake Erie. That's obviously more your jam, so to speak, of what you're used to. But what was it that possessed you to get outside of your comfort zone and come down south?
I mean, well, I think I told you about it. Like, I'm trying to learn everything I can. Mm-hmm. Back home, we got a lot of like grass fisheries, and then we have obviously the Great Lakes and St. Clair. But yeah, man, I'm just trying to learn everything I possibly can. I got a few weeks off work. The Nation was coming down here, so I hit you up. And there's not a lake like Eufaula back home. So it's
I don't think there's a lake anywhere that's like Eufaula in Oklahoma. And the sad thing is, between the NPFL, the Invitational, the BPT, and 2 opens in the Bass Nation, we still haven't hit it right.
I mean, I think it's about to go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, the storms and the weather that you guys got down here, it just didn't make it conducive, I would say, to really smash them. But it's different, man. The lake went up, 3 feet, came down half a foot. It made it tough. But I mean, it was a hell of a learning experience to get into a tournament with 200 guys, potentially 3-day tournament. It was just really, really good to learn. There's a few other lakes that I hit up around here, just trying to learn, just trying to figure out how these fisheries set up differently than the ones back home, or how much similar they are. I couldn't find a blade of grass in Eufaula.
Very little, if any.
Yeah. So it made it difficult trying to fish for largemouth on a fishery that doesn't have grass is something very new to me. So yeah, I just wanted to come down here. I wanted to learn, try to punch my ticket to the championship. Obviously that didn't happen. So I guess I'm heading to Erie next.
Oh, so you are going to fish that second? Yeah. Oh,
yes,
nice. That tournament, Paul Browning out of Texas won that. Paul has been around for quite a while, fishes a lot of the Bassmaster Opens, if you remember, was on a run and came really close, I think, in 21 to making the Elite Series, but he made it. A couple local guys, they take the top 20, I think, is what they took to the national championship. Dale Hightower finished fourth in that. You had guys from a variety of different areas. Chad Warren, he's been around a long time. Bobby D, my buddy Robert DeGraffenreid, like, he's the guy I was telling you still flips with mono.
Yeah, okay,
like old school dude, like one bait, lead, like he flips only one thing. He has one style. Now he's trying to diversify a little bit, right? Like he's trying to learn, but like that dude is like the best at catching fish that are less than 8 feet away from the boat and does not give him a chance. I mean, the thing, he fishes line that's like old school, like stren, like he fishes blue stren in 25-pound test. It just jacks him.
That's amazing.
So I would imagine that's kind of how that went down. A lot more Bassmaster Open guys fish this event, or with the Open taking place the previous week in Arkansas. I think a lot of the guys saw the opportunity. It's kind of a fast track, that Bass Nation, in a very slow process, but a fast track tournament days wise to get all of the goals that you're fishing for when you fish the Opens. You have the regional that you can get into as long as you're a Bass Nation member and a member of the club. You can go as an at-large bid, then you finish in the top 20, you fish 3 days in the regional, you go to the national championship, and then you're 3 days away. They take the top 3 to the Bassmaster Classic the following year in that national championship, and then the winner of that event also earns an Elite Series berth. I think $16,000. Well, not now because it had been $16,000, but they get like a stipend and some things like that for the Bassmaster Elite Series, as well as get into the Bassmaster Classic. So in theory, well, not in theory, in actuality, you could fish 6 days and be on the Bassmaster Elite Series and in the Bassmaster Classic and be in profit because of those 2 tournaments that you win. So it's a heck of a deal. James Niggemeyer, he finished 14th in this. Brandon Mosley, Jeff Luger, number of different guys, but it was a brutally tough tournament, similar to the Bassmaster Elite Series. And we will have Kyle Welcher on the show. If not this week, I'm trying to work on getting him on an evening or on his off day of the NPFL, but it's that time of the year as we are in early April where everything is in full swing. You've got an invitational that's kicking off. You've got an Open this week on the Tom Bigby waterway. You just concluded that last Elite Series. A lot of the guys are still traveling. A lot of stuff going on. And then, obviously out west with the One Bass stuff, but we will work on getting Kyle Welcher on. Absolute, like what you saw is a once in a lifetime, a generational ass kicking
from Eufaula.
No, from the Elite Series.
Oh, you're talking
tank. Yeah, Kyle Welcher.
Yeah.
I know this is a family friendly show, but the only sentence that I can use to describe it is a generational ass kicking.
Yeah.
For what happened on the Pasca tank and that fishery, for the way it lines up to have a 45-pound, 7-ounce victory over 4 days over the top guys in the world, so many of the stars have to align that when you talk about an untouchable record, like we talk about Elias's 132.8, we talk about Rojas's 45.2. You can go over and talk about the Brian Thrift limit streak on the old FLW, which I think will be different now because there are no limits at that top level with the every fish counts. When you talk about consecutive classics made, the classic record with Rick Clunn, consecutive classics made with KVD, number of tournaments fit, like you can, there's like some certain records, right? And we saw it this year. You're a hockey guy, you grew up a hockey guy in Canada, with Ovechkin recently breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record that they thought was untouchable. But I remember back they posted, Ovi would have to average 30 goals a year for the next however many years to break that record, and he ended up doing it. This record that Kyle Welcher just set on the Pasca Tank, a 45-pound, 7-ounce victory over Brandon Lester, who gets a second place finish with 73 pounds, 5 ounces, I think will stand for all of tournament fishing.
I mean, records are meant to be broken, though.
They are, but hear me out on this. One, in a spawn event, the last time we saw some crazy stuff go down was not the last time, but a event is you have to literally be at a venue you have to be at a venue that has the possibility, the potential to have a population of fish that are that big to get, like you go to, I want to say a Sabine River or something like that. Now I know there's big fish on the Sabine and on the Louisiana side, but if you top out at a 3.5, 4 pounder, like your max is going to be 80 pounds, right? So you have to have a fishery that has a population of giant fish. So that immediately eliminates 95% of the fisheries in the country.
Yeah, there's 11 or so lakes that have pumped those kind of numbers out anyways.
And Pete Robbins and the guys at B.A.S.S and the way that they tried to put this in historical perspective on live actually did a really good job of pulling up those numbers. We were actually watching that final day replay this morning before we went live. But yeah, 11 fisheries where you break the century mark. So you've automatically eliminated 95% of the fisheries that the Elite Series or the professional fishing travels to, right? So there's 95% out. So now you're down to 5%. So they were on the 5%. Then of that 5%, in order to have the potential to consistently have that many big bags on a week when the fish move up in the spring is only going to be 10% of those tournaments, right? So now you have to have it on a 5% fishery during the 10% of the year that could happen. Then you have to have the conditions where those fish aren't flooding the banks currently, because if they are, more than one angler finds them. That's kind of what happened with Rojas, right? I remember when he had the 45.2, he's talked about how those fish weren't there. And then all of a sudden he could literally see them waddling, I believe is the term he used, funneling into his area as the tournament progressed, which is what allowed him not to split fish with other anglers because those fish weren't there. And he was able to go around and catch all those fish because they just came up. So you have the 5%, then you have the 10% of just the time of the year. And then of that, you have a 2% chance that you have a cold front that comes through, that you find an area. Welcher was talking about how he found one fish in that area that was on a bed, was looking at it on forward facing. I don't think he was visually seeing them.
No, that's right. I think he said he's seen that.
He did see that six with his eyes. Yeah. So then you have to have the percent chance that happens, right? And that no one else finds that bite because that bite isn't happening. And then it manifests during the tournament, and that angler has the wherewithal to understand what was happening on the water and to stay with it and to have that area to himself where no one was around on those fish that could keep pace with them. The odds of that happening are astronomical.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
Like here's why it's so crazy. So that happens on let's say that happens on Toledo Bend. Guys know after the first day, right? Someone comes in with a 35-pound bag this time of the year. You can tell based on how the fish look, based on their coloring, their tails, their markings, whatever. My God, they're on the bank. They started spawning.
And then the guys flood the bank.
Guys know how to get up there and where it was. This was on a fishery that no one knew. Like Randy Howell had fished it a couple times. Some guys had gone and pre-practiced earlier before the off limits area, but this was on a foreign body of water that had this potential, which doesn't really exist. I mean, the last time we've seen that Caney deal down in Louisiana has some potential for that. And then the North Carolina stuff that MLF and the guys have visited before, like that has potential for big fish. But I mean, pretty much anywhere else where you have the potential for 8 to 12 pound bass, like guys know about that.
Yeah.
Find out about it. And there's not that many bodies of water that are big enough to have an Elite Series field on that offer that kind of potential that isn't, massively exploited already.
So do you think that that's why?
Yeah, that's why it worked for
yet.
him, because no one had been there. So like, it wasn't like, oh, this is where I've caught him spawning before. And then all of a sudden, Welcher has a 15-pound lead after the first day or a 10-pound lead, but then it stays a 10-pound lead because he got one day ahead of everybody because there were 4 or 5 other guys that were in the mix, in that top 20, but then they went, and then Welcher's 30 gets matched with 28s and 30s, and someone has a freak show day, and you get that 10, 15-pound separation to where he still wins the tournament comfortably. But the guys keep pace the next 3 days because this was such an oddball scenario where he kept doubling his lead every single day because no one else knew like where or how that was going down on that fish. That'll never happen again, right? We've seen, think about Jeff Gustafson in the Classic this past year or 2 years ago in Knoxville when he won the first time in the Elite Series, when he went in there and won it. Demolished everyone, smashed everyone, moping in that area. This time in the Classic, had a lot of help. Guys knew it. They went in there. They were splitting fish up a little bit more, and it wasn't, a dominating victory like that. That'll happen when they return to this too. I promise you, everyone will look for the flats, look for the trees on that and stuff where those guys are spawning. But this was a once in a lifetime scenario, and then it took the right guy.
Okay, so but how did everybody else miss it?
Because
I'm not that's not a jab at everybody.
Well,
else,
because it wasn't happening. Everyone's like, in a tournament like that, like Kyle even says, like if you read Welcher's article on Bassmaster, he had that 6.5, and he said he was going to catch it, and then he was going to run to a different river. I don't know if that's in the article. He mentioned it on the TV show, on the live coverage, but he was going to run to a different river and try to fill his limit out with 2-pounders,
right?
And have 14 or 15 a day, get his points, and get the hell out.
Yeah, but we're talking like the best 105 guys.
But you also have to remember, there's a lot of guys on the Elite Series now without that level of experience on new bodies of water, and it's also fishing for fish that aren't there yet, which is part luck. Welcher said, hey, I was in the right area and stuff, but I think he will admit that, had he not found that one fish on the bed, he wouldn't have been there. But, if you don't have that clue, like he had a clue, right?
Yeah,
he was the only one who had the clue to that level with that size fish.
Yeah. Did they not know that place kicks them out that big though?
I mean, it does, but second place was 73 pounds. I don't think that they thought, at least I didn't. You look at how we picked the weights on the Open Pros pick 'em. It was more of like a Florida scenario in my mind where, you might have a giant, but the rest are going to be a little bit smaller. Like the fact, and we saw, with what Drew Gill did and the Chowan River, which is kind of in that same general region, that it had the potential for big bags.
Yeah.
Bassmaster did an article with Trey McKinney, who he was out catching 28, 26, 28 in practice and stuff. But that weather system also rolled through that previous week. It was just long story short, I mean, I kind of dove into a bunch of it. It was the perfect scenario, and Kyle Welcher, I picked him not to win. I picked KJ Queen to win. But to me, when I picked Welcher, like this was his jam. An Alabama guy who fishes by the seat of his pants, who runs and guns, who likes to not be locked in to one thing, who is able to use his raw fishing talent that has resulted in multiple Angler of the Year titles and Elite Series championships to fish a new body of water, break it down on the fly, and figure it out. Like this was a tournament of gut instinct and breaking down a massive body of water in a rapid period of time. Like I would venture to say that there was a big portion of the field with everything that was at their disposal that weren't even within 20 miles of where Welcher.
Well, they're saying some guys are making a 100-mile run.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, how do you determine in 3 days where you go?
That's what I'm trying to be down here to find it.
Yeah. But anyway, so, and then to do it old school, a mix of old school and new school. Like I've always thought that there is a generation of anglers who could thrive with the merging of traditional tournament bass fishing techniques and forward facing sonar. So flipping a jig with your scope set to where you're flipping to like, that's what we saw Kyle do. We saw him fish his strengths while utilizing and benefiting from the forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, I think like maybe Welcher would be like the perfect storm for that.
He is the perfect storm for that. Like that's what I'm saying. For all of this to come together, like 45 pounds, 7 ounces. He had 118 pounds, 12 ounces, and Brandon Lester was in second with 73 pounds, 5 ounces.
It's insane.
It'll never happen again. It'll never even come close to happening again. I will also say this from the live coverage that I was able to watch. I wasn't able to watch a whole bunch of it because Daryl Gleason and I were fishing Clark's Hill, and then we went to round 2 Friday at the Masters, which I'll talk a little bit about. That wasn't like a life bucket list. That was the life bucket list.
Yeah, I seen that haul of hats you brought home.
I know. Now I have no money left. Oh, it was ugly.
Was it?
It's like that, obviously that's the only place you can get. Yeah, you can, I guess, rebuy some stuff on eBay, but it's only for sale at the merch store during Masters Week.
Really?
Yeah. Which is wild. Cool. But I went back and watched a lot of that coverage, and I will say Bassmaster did a much better job. Bassmaster did a great job of putting what he's doing in historical significance. Like, I think it's really easy for people to lose interest in a tournament where it's a blowout, right? Like, as a fan of professional bass fishing, are you more likely to watch a tournament when you know it's super close, or are you more likely to like turn it off and just be like, oh, he's got it?
No, I think I'd much rather watch it when it's super, super close. It was interesting to see like Welcher do what he did though. And just like that close to takeoff. I mean, the guy put on a clinic, for lack of better terms. But no, I think I'd much rather see. I'd much rather see it be close, be tight, kind of like what we were watching last night. Yeah, like that. That was entertaining, but no, it was cool to see him do what he did. But it would have been nice to have have it tight.
See, at some point, I think that there is a level of intrigue. So, like after day 2, to me, there's a level of intrigue that's happening with how much can this guy win by. It's why, like, I never turned off the UConn women's basketball national championships when they were up by 30 at halftime, because you're like, okay, could this be at 100-20, which it could. So after day 2, when he had 60 pounds 14 ounces and Trey McKinney was 22 pounds on the dot behind him, I actually, from a distance, like I said, I wasn't able to watch a ton of it live because Friday, guess where I was? I was at the Masters.
You're at the Masters.
I was like, okay, this is going to be Western. This is going to get nuts.
Yeah, you start asking different questions, right? Like, can he break records? Can he, like, how much weight can he actually catch? Because nobody else is fishing the area. He doesn't have any other pressure. Those fish aren't seeing anybody else. Yeah, you're just asking different questions. You're not asking if he can win. It's like, is he going to break records?
Yeah. And then after day 3, when you knew he was going to win, I mean, the last time we'd had such a guaranteed victory like that, in my mind, obviously there was a South Carolina. He won by like 22 pounds, I think. Patrick Walters.
Yeah, okay.
But before that was the infamous pizza incident or pizza episode with Timmy Horton on Lake Champlain, where he knew, but he had to go out and catch him on the final day still. You know, he had a big enough lead where once he caught him, he knew that, you know, if there weren't 5 bass big enough swimming around in Lake Champlain for anyone to beat him. So he was all the way up at Ticonderoga and made the long run back. Like, I mean, Welcher did not have to. Welcher didn't. He had it won halfway through the tournament.
Didn't
he
Amart
caught like 2 fish or 1 or 2 fish the second day and was like, had the thing won.
Didn't Amart have something like that on, was it St. Clair or Erie? Like where he didn't have to go out the last day?
There's been a couple tournaments where the guys don't have to go out the last day, but it's never in slugfests. Big difference.
I see what you mean.
This is a slugfest. After day 3, he had a 34-pound lead. So, like, he knew in all reality, you know, Lester was in second, who had gone 17, 18, 24, 23, 15, 21 for McKinney, 17, 19, 22 for Williams. So no one had touched a 25-pound bag except Welcher, who had gone 30, 11, 33, and 34. So he knew, like, hey, even if I don't make a cast, I've got a 99% chance to win this event. And then he went out and dropped 24 on the final day. At that point, he's record hunting. He's seeing how high can I get? How many can I catch? Can I get close to Kennedy?
Yeah.
At the 130, or Paul Elias at the 132.8 on Falcon. Like, this wasn't the most giant bags ever weighed in by any means. Like that, you know, you take a Falcon Lake there and that blows everything away.
Right.
But for what he did, that record will never be broken. There will never be a winner by 45 pounds, 7 ounces. It won't happen.
Yeah, no, you might be right.
Because even, like, think of it on a stingy fishery. Let's say you catch 50 pounds in 4 days on a stingy fishery. 12, 24, 36, 48. That's 12 pounds a day. In order for that margin, if you have 50 pounds, then that means the entire, put this in their perspective, the entire rest of the field in 4 days of competition, second place would be 5 pounds. Put that into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, you put it that way. Yeah.
The best in the world, all combined, and not a single one of them, that means if Welcher averaged 12 pounds a day, 12 and a half pounds a day, let's just say it was on a stingy fishery, second place would average 1.25 pounds a day.
Yeah.
Is not happening.
No. But it happened once.
When? Here?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
I don't think there's other fisheries where that can happen like that because of the 9 reasons that we just laid out.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Before we take our first break, I do want to mention this is the last week, and I'm super pumped. Like, I called Catherine from ATS Printing and was like, "Hey, how are the St. Jude, Dick Hiley St. Jude T-shirt sales going?" And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing really well." I said, "Dude, the BTL listeners, they show out." I saw the BTL, the St. Jude shirts, where 100% of the proceeds go to donate. Are donated to St. Jude Children Research Hospital. This is the 4th year that we've done it. The shirts are live through the 19th. Brand new design, brand new colors. BassTalkLive.com. Click on the Shop BTL tab to order your St. Jude Bass Fishing Saves Lives t-shirt by April 19th, 2025. So you're getting down to the wire. What happens, what they do there is once it's ordered, then the shop closes on the 19th and they print all the shirts out and send them out. So, order those shirts. Like I said, some new colors, a brand new design for this year, and it all goes towards 100% of the proceeds go to the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital through the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic, which has raised over $7 million in like the 25 years that it's been in existence. So
that's awesome.
Good stuff there. All right, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, more record-setting action from the WON Bass Clear Lake Open. John Pearl, 15 bass, not 20, 15 bass, 102 pounds, almost 103 pounds. He had like 102.13, but they do it in hundreds, so it was 102.81 pounds. It's crazy. It's BTL on a Monday. We'll be back right after this. Pro Bass Adventures is reinventing Mexico bass fishing. With boats equipped with 12-inch Garmin units and LiveScope Plus, free loaner fishing rods, and no-cost airport transportation, Pro Bass Adventures is proudly putting you in the best position for success. Pro Bass Adventures has lodges on Lake Baccarat and Lake El Salto, Mexico's two best trophy largemouth bass lakes. Visit probassadventures.com or email probassadventures@gmail.com. The official Mexico fishing lodge of Bass Talk Live.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
This is Gamakatsu's new Nano Alpha line of hooks. If it looks familiar, that's because they are. It's the same shapes and sizes in the round bend and the EWG and in the new Horizon head that you know and love from Gamakatsu, but there are a couple new features with this Nano Alpha, which is this little green label that you see on the packaging. First off, 2 times faster hook penetration. That's because of the Nano Alpha smooth coating on it, and also it is 4 times more corrosion resistant. Check it out, Nano Alpha.
I've been using Sunline Shooter for the majority of my career. Millions of dollars made, lots of bass caught, and the gnarly, gnarly stuff. If you need a abrasion resistant, tough fishing line for the really, really mean stuff, Sunline Shooter is for you.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFCO. Any fish, any water.
All right, welcome back, BTL on a Monday. Joined with Bass Nation's angler Josh Giroldi from Canada. We're going to get into that a little bit more because I don't know. According to some people, there are no fans of professional fishing left. Everyone's just quit watching it. It's just horrible, and you're like the target audience, dude. Like you're the bread and butter of competitive and tournament bass fishing. So we'll get into that. Before we get into that, though, John Pearl won $17,000 cash and the keys to a 2025 Ranger Z 518 with the 150 on it. Total purse $72,000, and he did it on Clear Lake in an absolute slugfest of a WON Bass Clear Lake Open. Big shout out to Billy and the guys at Billy Egan and the guys at B.A.S.S have done a really good job of putting together a high-end series out on the West Coast with B.A.S.S, who then partnered with Bassmaster for the top 5 anglers in each of these qualifying events go to the Bass Nation Championship. So you look at the list of those guys, it's like all the West Coast sticks are going to be in La Crosse for this one. There were a bunch that were at Grand Lake this last year, but John Pearl goes 35-44, 31-87, and 35-50 for his 15 fish total limit of 102.81. But Nathan Phillips kept it close. He only won by a little bit over a pound. He went 35-37, 29-75, and 36-21.
36.
Yeah, 36-21. He had 101.33 pounds, and then it drops down to Mason McCabe. Good showing for the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Ish Monroe. 31-27. Then he had 26 on day 2, and then backed it up with 31 on the final day. So a 3-day total weight of 88 pounds for Ish Monroe. But John Pearl, he did it a number of different ways, Josh. And one of the things that I found interesting was I'd had Justin Lucas on, and I was talking about how I think blind minnowing is going to become a bigger and bigger thing. Just in certain applications where maybe you can't see the fish or your scope isn't playing as big of a role as it can, skipping it around stuff. If you can't use forward facing, if you're out of the back of the boat, I'm like, dude, I think blind. I'm not saying that. It's obvious. Guys have been throwing a fluke on a jig head and a big preacher jig and a big paddle tail on a jig head, blind casting it for years. But you just don't hear a lot about it in the tournament world right now. And he caught a lot of his fish on a big minnow, open water, but then he also caught some on a 13-inch glide. But he said the biggest fish that he caught on the final day was casting a big Sakamata shad under the dock, blind, like didn't see it on scope or anything, and just two freaking 12-pounders, so 10-pounders. So
that's not really blind casting it though, right? Like that's target oriented.
Yeah, but he wasn't looking at it.
Yeah, he wasn't
as far as like blind casting. But a lot of those fish, there were some guys in the second place guy caught him kind of sunning fish, spawning fish that were sunning, but a lot of those fish were big minnow fish, offshore pre-spawn fish that were caught on the jig head minnow there. But I reached out to John. I know he's got a full plate, a very busy man, so hopefully get him on BTL soon as well. Do you ever have a desire to go out west and sample the Clear Lake, the Delta, Shasta, or like Orville, any of those California fisheries? Or is that not even like on the radar for the guys up in Canada?
No, I mean, it's on the radar for sure. Just as like for me right now, like I gotta stick to the East Coast, man. Like this, it's getting a little expensive driving all over the nation trying to catch one of these green fish, if you know what I mean.
It is. What, you just like save up all year for this trip?
Pretty much, yeah. I sold my soul
firefighter by trade.
Yeah, firefighter by trade, and I teach some of the fire program at the college in Toronto too.
Oh, nice. I didn't know you did that.
Yes, sir.
Is that a pain in the butt, or is that pretty mellow? Like, do you enjoy the teaching aspect of it?
I mean, I like the teaching aspect of it, but it's like a 10-80-10. Like 10% of the students are really, really good, right? 10% of them are just there, and the other 10% are
there 80%?
Or sorry, yeah.
Oh, 80% are just there?
Sorry, 10% are like solid rock stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, 80% are like, or sorry, 70%, whatever, somewhere in around there. They're there because they just kind of want to be there, but they're not really invested. And then 10%,
disasters.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I feel like that's like the fish. That's a great breakdown of what I would say like high level competitive fishing is. You have your 10% that are going to account for a lot of the checks. I think was it Roland? One of those guys said that 90% of the checks are won by 10% of the guys.
Yeah, I can see it.
But you've got your 10%, and then you've got your 80% that are, you have to have that 80% though. That's the bulk. Like right now, I'm in that 80% in the opens. Actually, I might be in the bottom 10%, but right now, you know what I mean? Like they have that potential. It's no surprise to see them up there. They take it seriously. You have to have that influx, that investment of those anglers for it to work. And then there's 10% that are the 10%.
Yeah.
And sometimes that bottom 10% may be in the top 10% of the check cashers, but I still put them in the bottom 10%.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
I know what
you
you're saying.
see, catch that drift.
Yeah, I'm picking which one down.
Yeah, let's go there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what's going on as someone who is invested in the sport, interested in it? Like I said, you're spending a lot of money in bass fishing on it. People have opined that the fishing industry is in a bad spot, or that tournament fishing is. Do you feel that, or for you, is that passion burning as bright as ever, and you still enjoy watching live as much as ever, purchasing stuff, things like that?
I mean, the purchasing stuff's getting harder and harder because, like, Jesus, it's getting more expensive. You coming down here, like, I can see how you can be like more invested in it, like financially, like. But for me, I'm ate up with it, man. Like, I get up in the morning, it's kind of what I think about. Like, the whole reason I go to work is to get time off to come do this kind of thing. Like, I schedule all my vacation around tournament days. So yeah, I would say I'm pretty invested into it, or as invested as I can be. Haven't remortgaged the house yet to keep this going, but who knows?
Wait, you said you have or haven't?
Have not.
Okay, no, that's good.
No, it's good, man. I try to stay out of the negativity aspect of it. I mean, but there's negativity in any sport, right? Like, that's what they write, like, news articles and things about, is like some of the negativity. Unfortunately, that's how. I don't know. I just try to stay out of it. I don't like it. I mean, these guys are out there trying to make a living catching a bass, and I mean, there's not too many people in the world who can say that, so it's pretty cool. But I don't know. For me, man, I'm ate up.
Do you feel like you've learned a lot, like become a better angler, even though the results that you follow weren't what you hoped?
Just coming down here in the few days?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've hit a couple personal bass. I mean, I've never caught a spot before. I caught a spot the other day. That was pretty cool.
Spotted bass.
Yeah. You guys got some of those big cats out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're pretty cool. They're pretty aggressive.
You hooked a big catfish?
I got 2 of them.
Oh, nice. Flathead? The kind that looked all mottled on top, that were kind of like brownish?
No, it was like a kind of a dull gray.
So it was a big blue cat.
Okay. Yeah.
Either blue or channel.
Yeah. Caught a 1.5 pound crappie. That was kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah. It ate a 5-inch Sakamata shad. So
yeah. We're going to go try to catch some crappie after this.
Yeah. I mean, the results that you follow, like, were obviously not what I was hoping for. Like, the goal to come down here was to top 20 it and to get into the championship. But I mean, you live and learn. That was one of the toughest fisheries that I think I've fished. I've had some bad tournaments, obviously, but I felt like I put myself in the right area of that lake. The water was like cleaning up the fastest, I thought. It was warming up the fastest, and I thought if it was going to go down, it was going to go down in that area. And I mean, we don't have lakes like that big rock with like the gravel, with a good population of largemouth in it. We don't have that.
Oklahoma Lake.
Yeah, I guess it'd be a true Oklahoma Lake. Yeah, we don't have that back home, so it was really good to learn about it. Like, I mean, I wish I would have got some more clues to help me out, but I guess that's fishing. That's one thing I find really, really hard about this fishing thing is like feedback. Any other sport, you get feedback. You can go back and you can watch tapes. Like take golf and take hockey, take basketball, anything. You can watch tapes
and say, this is what you did wrong. This is where your swing needs. This is why this guy walked 100%. You on defense. This is why he was wide open.
Yeah, and then you can go back and you can work on that. Like, I mean, you skip a jig under a dock and you hit a pontoon 17 times. Like, you go back, you need to work on skipping a jig.
Yeah.
But like missing the bite completely. And if you're out there for the 3 days of practice or 4 days of practice and then the 2 days of the tournament and you cannot buy a bite, and some guy, like, somebody's going home with that trophy at the end of the day or at the end of the tournament, and it's not you. It's like, that trophy ain't coming back to Canada with me. But there's just no feedback to learn off of. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think. That's a
good point.
Yeah, I'm lying, but I did miss 2 fish. I don't think they would have helped at all. I don't think they were over 12 inches. But yeah, there's just no feedback. I don't know
Yeah.
where I went wrong. So that's what I find really intriguing about this fishing thing is the feedback, like to learn about where I went wrong, to make those adjustments, to make it better. I can be out in Eufaula for another 2 weeks, but if I don't get those clues to learn where I went wrong.
I call that productive practice. Like there's guys who are able to be productive with their practice when they go pre-practice or when they're practicing for an event. Like just because you're on the water from daylight to dark doesn't mean that you're helping yourself.
Right.
Like
right.
you can literally go power pole down in a cove and be like, hey, I was on the water for
right
12 hours. I've been guilty of that too, where I'm like, boy, I just scoped this entire cove on a 100,000 acre lake and my day's over. Like what the hell did I learn? But the best anglers seem to be able to practice productively, meaning they can understand like what they're doing, where they're making their mistakes, where they're learning from.
Yeah. And that's something that I really need to like work on or learn about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm hoping we're going out a couple times this week, but yeah, I don't know to stay or to go. You know what I mean? Like there's no like YouTube video out there to be like, this is how you practice for a derby. And it's like, even if there was, it's not conducive to how everybody else fishes. Right. So like being productive in an area for you might be very different than me being productive in an area or somebody else. And I just need to learn how to be more productive.
No right way everything works for an individual.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's general themes. Oh, so like at the Masters, for example, because I was at the Masters this last week with Daryl Gleason on Friday. Do you see where we were sitting too? Like we got our seats, we ran in there. We'll talk about that more. Daryl will be on the show tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about, I got my first action of the herring spawn, flew in and he's like, hey dude, like I want to go back to Clark's Hill. And, he's like, you should have fished this open in January, but the herring spawn's going on. I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm in on that. So we went back and did that and then went to the Masters on Friday. But I say that to say this is you're right, like on feedback. So like Bryson DeChambeau was talking about how his irons were a little off, right?
Yeah.
But he could physically see like, hey, like this is where my weakness is right now. Like I'm spraying them, my distance control is a little off. So he could say, I would have a better result in this tournament if my irons were more dialed in. So then after the round, he was back on the range. We walked right past him at 7:30 at night, right after he was in second place in the Masters with his swing coach out there banging irons.
Yeah. But that's
because he could physically with his eyes go, okay, this is what's holding me back in this event. It's not like you came back to the house or could be after practice and be like, oh, I need to, if I'm casting my 5XD 30 feet further, I'm catching a limit.
Right. And then make that
coming
adjustment.
back and working on casting length.
Yeah. Or just making that adjustment, being like, like if you want to call it like a deep crank, like, okay, going from 14
what's so
to 12.
maddening about this game. Because I think that's something we all struggle with. Now, obviously, the more you do it and the better you get, you can understand there are certain things that you take for granted. Like I think your starting point is a lot higher than someone who's just learning. So you have like, okay, A, B, and C are happening. So you start on D.
Right.
Whereas someone who's just getting into it has to make sure, figure out A and then get to B and then see how C is affected by A and B. And by that time, your practice is over. And if you have a guy that sounds weird, if you have a guy who's starting 4 levels ahead.
Yeah, I got that one too. Yeah.
You have a guy who's starting 4 levels ahead. He's going to be further ahead by the end because he's starting. That's also what pisses off so many of the veterans about the no information rule that's going along right now too, because there seem to be certain people in organizations who are making decisions who do not have the capacity to understand how much more valuable general information is in this day and age right now.
Right.
Because if you're starting ahead and your ahead is, hey, this is the general area and what the fish are doing. Well, he didn't get waypoints. He didn't do that. It didn't affect the outcome. That's BS.
Right.
Because now you're starting 3 or 4 building blocks ahead of the next guy. And in today's day and age, with how fast you're able to utilize technology to translate and use information to catch the 5 biggest fish, that's bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah, 100%. Because you didn't spend the whole day running around the lake. You've already went to the most like populated area. Yeah, you've taken 3 steps out of it. So yeah, I can see how that's different.
But yeah, we're gonna hit the water. We're gonna try to catch some fish. We have a busy week as we kind of head into Easter week. Daryl Gleason. We have invitationals. We have MPFLs going on, Toyota Series, all sorts of stuff going on the docket. But I wanted to get you in studio. I appreciate you taking the time to do it. I know this was like a fishing morning that you could have been out.
No, it's all good, man. I appreciate the hospitality again. These Southern hospitality, it's something else.
You do like you're a big fan of Oklahoma,
buddy. I'm telling you, if I could figure out a way, we
went down to Texas. Josh came down with me, and we went to a country concert. When I came back from, I went to the Masters. I tell you, went to the Masters.
No, actually, didn't. It was
freaking awesome. Yeah, Friday, like we actually, roared like what's it, Siwoo Kim, the Australian, like literally like hit a ball like 6 feet from Daryl Denine, and they like move everyone back from the ropes, and we're just like sitting there, and they didn't move us. And I'm like, there's like one screenshot where you can see it. It's but he, like, I could have reached out and just touched him, and like his caddy like set the bag on Daryl's toe.
Really?
I'm not kidding. Like we were in the freaking action at the mat. It was mind blowing.
Once in a lifetime, eh?
But anyway, I came back, and Court was who lives in Fort Worth was like, we're like, hey, you want to come down and see what Texas is all about? For those who've been there for the Classic and stuff, no, like they don't mess around. Like it's cowboy hats, boots, starch jeans.
Yes, sir.
And
yeah, y'all do it right down there.
Yeah. Who did we see?
Chris Young.
Yeah, we went and saw Chris Young at Billy Bob's.
Yeah, that place is wild, man. Wild. Yeah.
So it was a good time, but we're gonna head out to the water, catch some crappie, hopefully catch some bass as well, do a little learning, and
yes,
then Daryl Gleason. Kyle Welcher. There's also another special guest with Kyle Welcher that I would like to reach out to and get them on simultaneously. I'll just tease it with this because I guarantee no one knows who I'm talking about, but this would be one of the most dynamic shows in BTL history. Well, I'll just read some of this gentleman's text on his quote. So it's Kyle Welcher, and then he edits it with a king hat on Kyle Welcher, and then a pile of money on a poker table, and it says, "The gambler gets it done. No one more deserving than Kyle Himothy Welcher," because he's him. He is him. Kyle Himothy Welcher. Congrats, K Daddy. King K Daddy doing king things. Ain't even got to use that big motor this week. That gas bill's going to be free. The Pascatank Thrasher, Kyle Himothy Welcher, the chosen one. Rise up, glorious king. Look at that. I haven't showed you this.
No, you haven't shown me that.
Oh, dude, look at the. So there's like a little backstory to this. It's the best fan account on the Instagrams.
Is it?
Yeah. And here's the only thing. So he's posted consistently throughout the NPFL season, throughout everything. He's posted consistently for the last couple years. He's only following 8 people, but he only has 205 followers.
Okay.
I think that needs to be up to 1,000. I mean, the dude is doing like edits. He's posting. So I went to Japan with Welcher and Sunline and John Cruz.
Yeah.
Which John Cruz posted something hilarious.
Yeah, I thought that's where this was going.
No, I can't say anything. It's all good. It's just anyway. Kyle Welcher may or may not have sang Backstreet Boys karaoke. And the only way he would do it was if we had a bro code that we would never share the video.
Oh, but he didn't say nothing about saying nothing about it.
I mean, if you know, you know. But I would love. We'll see. I would. There might be. I'm gonna reach out to this guy once I get a time for Kyle on, because there's a backstory there. Because Kyle actually met him, didn't realize he met him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude was super mellow. So
that's cool.
All right. That's it. That's all we got for BTL today. Same time, same place tomorrow. Thanks for jumping on, dude. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man.
All right. We will talk to everybody tomorrow. Later.